welcome to another edition of the Silverbird Selection, and it's time for another game review. This time I'm looking at a game released in 1987 called Brainstorm, but my copy of this game is a little bit different from the standard copy because it was also re-released in 1989 on the front cover of issue 88 of Computer and Video Games. So this is actually a free cover mounted cassette. I'll show you the cassette here. You can see that this had the Spectrum, Amstrad and Commodore 64 versions of the game on there. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So the game, I think in a standard original release packaging, is fairly uncommon. I'd probably say that this cover mounted game is actually quite rare. I haven't seen many copies on eBay. I got my copy a couple of years ago, I think, and it cost me £1.99. I actually did have this originally when I bought the copy of Computer and Video Games back in the 80s as well, but unfortunately didn't retain that copy, so I did actually have to buy it again. So that's it, that's the history of this one, a little bit different to the normal versions. So let's take a look at the packaging, and then of course we'll play the game and see how that is as well. As always, let's start with the front cover of the game then, and you can see it's a pretty standard Silver Range type packaging. You've got the Silver Range logo in the corner there, you've got the frame around the image, the Firebird logo at the bottom, and in the middle you've got the Brainstorm title and a brain, and then a variety of different coloured squares, boxes, cubes, whatever you want to call them, and also a ball which represents some of the objects within the game. When we start to look at the spine though, you'll see something a little bit different from all the other Silver Range games. You've got the Brainstorm logo, but then you've also got the sort of characteristic system names and colours that you get from these 8-bit games. So you've got red for the Commodore 64, orange for the Amstrad and yellow for the Spectrum. So that's something unique to this packaging. And then on the back there's no screenshots or anything like that. It's just got a C+VG gift on the back there. Obviously this inlay was cut out of the magazine, which we're about to see in more detail when we look inside. So inside the packaging again, it looks pretty similar to a normal Firebird release, but if you look closely you can actually see the sort of typesetting of all the little boxes of all the different sections to the inlay. I think you call it typesetting. I'm not really into the publishing side of things, so I'm not really sure, but here you can see all the lines there. So you've got the title there, the description of the game. Brainstorm is an arcade strategy game. At the beginning of the game you see one or two balls bouncing around a coloured grid. The objective of the game is to trap the balls or ball on a red area of the grid, since your score will depend on the time the ball spends travelling over each particular coloured area of the screen. Then it goes on to give you more detailed gameplay instructions, which I won't go into in too much detail there. You can read them yourself if you like. It tells you about the aspects of the game. So you've got the grid, and it says there the colours on the grid. Black and blue have no effect as the ball passes over them. Red increases your score. Magenta loses you points, and green will cause your ball to jump randomly to another part of the grid. And then you've got the bonus icon. Selecting the bonus icon will double your speed of scoring, but you can't use the bonus icon and also draw the lines. We'll get on to drawing the lines in due course. And finally at the bottom there it says levels of difficulty. So level 1 is 3 lines to trap 1 ball, level 2 is 2 lines to trap 1 ball, and level 3 is 3 lines to trap 2 balls. So then we'll move inside the second bit of the inlay. You've got the loading instructions, you've got Commodore 64, you've got Spectrum and you've got Amstrad. And then, as I said, this was obviously cut out from inside a page of the Computer and Video Games magazine. So inside you've got an advert, or a bit of an advert, so let's just have a little bit of a look at that for fun. So this was from Instant, it looks like, in Leicester, and you can see, I don't know what system these are for, they're probably Amiga games I suspect. You've got things like Rambo 3 for $11.99, R-Type for $17.25, that's a bit of a random price. And then you've also got, I think these are probably 8-bit games. So you've got Outrun for £6.94 on some system, we don't know which one. And then down in the bottom corner here you've got Sega games. This looks like Master System to me. So you've got the console plus games for £79.95, Afterburner 25 quid, Double Dragon 25 quid, most of them are 25 quid, Outrun 25, Fantasy Star 34.95. So there you go, a little insight into what was on sale at the time that this tape was given away on the front cover of Computer and Video Games. So slightly different packaging to what we're used to, very flimsy. It's obviously just a page of a magazine, so not as good quality as you usually get, but something a little bit different, and I've just dropped it. So this is the loading screen, nothing very spectacular, just some text. Silverbird Software presents Brainstorm, Commodore 64 conversion by David Rainbow Shoes Kirby. And it says there, it apologises that Brainstorm is loading, apologies for the fact the screen doesn't stay on for all that long, but that's life. Indeed, that is life. Sometimes you don't always get what you want. Here's the title screen then, pretty simplistic stuff. Big blue background, couple of boxes, says Brainstorm in one of them by Pete Cook and David Kirby. Copyright 1987, press space or fire. So I'm going to press fire, and you're then presented with a menu with a variety of options. And all the controls done with a cursor. You can see it moving around there like a mouse pointer, except you move it with a joystick. So you've got the options to play the game, see the scores, set the keys, choose a starting screen, and also choose a difficulty level. I'm going to leave everything as is to begin with, but straight away you can see there's plenty of options, nicely presented, no music unfortunately, but otherwise a nicely presented screen with a good set of options. So let's get on and play the game. So as you can see, the first screen is loaded up, and I'll just go through what you're supposed to do before I actually start playing it. So the idea of the game, as it mentioned in the instructions, as you'd expect, is that you've got to try and trap the ball, which is currently up here, in a red space. Whenever it's in a red space, your score increases. Whenever it's in a magenta space, which you can't see on this screen because the first screen is nice and easy, then the score will decrease, and the aim for each level is to increase your score to be more than it was on the previous level. So at the top right here you've got your current score, which is 100, and the score from the previous level, which in this case is 100. So you've got to end up with more than 100 points basically on this first level, which it's impossible not to do. Now, to aid you in trapping the ball, and I may as well start at this point, there are 3 lines which all start from the bottom of the screen. So let's start the game going. So if I've currently got the blue line selected, so if I draw a box sort of round to trap the ball at the bottom there, then use the yellow one to get in a bit closer. So draw that across there and down there, why not? And then finally get the white one, and the idea is to trap it in this red space. Oh, I've not done a great job there. Let's draw the line across there, hopefully that'll get it down to the bottom there now. Yeah, so it's pretty much in the red space. One more line across there, and now it's trapped in the red space completely. So then when you've done that, you switch and choose the bonus option on the right hand side there, and that increases your score more quickly. If you're trapped in a pink space, it decreases your score more quickly as well. So we'll get onto that in the next screen. So the first screen's nice and easy. The one thing you haven't seen is that these lines are not endless. They do have a finite length. So there you go, screen A is completed. I've got 207 points. So when we go to the next screen, you can instantly see it's a little bit more difficult. In fact, I find this one of the more difficult screens in the game that I've got through. So now you can see that my current score is 207, my previous screen score is 207, so I've got to end up with more than 207 points. And this is where it starts to get a little bit more tricky, because there's the pink areas as well as the red. So I've got to try and trap it in the middle of the screen effectively here. So let's see how we get on. So my first plan is to basically cut off as much of that side of the screen as possible, then switch to the yellow and try and trap it in the middle a little bit more. There we go. Oh, but unfortunately it's now escaped out the other side. Now the key, what I've found, is to not panic too much when this happens. Don't try too much to guide it back, because it will end up back where it started. Maybe. Oh, it's going back all the way around again, and my time's rapidly running out, and it's mainly only going through the pink bits, so I really need it to drop back in this section here, which is going to now. There we go, now it's trapped in the red pretty safely. My score's starting to increase. Don't tend to get a very big score on this level, but if I switch the bonus on now, obviously there's not many red areas to pass it through. Ideally you want to trap it in this little corner here, but it's just not really worth the effort. The only aim is to get a higher score than the previous level, and obviously get as big a score as possible as the game progresses. So there we go, screen B successfully negotiated, and that's the hardest screen for the next few, to be honest, because you can see here there's a big red space on the left here, quite easy to trap it in there, or one of these corners. All we've really got to do is stop it hitting this big pink bit. So let's move on. So my first job here is to try and trap it in this bit of the screen. Now it's going to go under there, which is a bit of a mess. There we go, it's coming back though. There's some good geometry in the game because it does tend to go back the way it came. So we're getting there. All I need to do now, there we go. So all I'm aiming for now is to trap it. Oh dear, I've missed. Okay, never mind. The white one is now superfluous, so I can now move the white one over and try and trap it in this little area here. It'll get there eventually. Or maybe it won't. No? Okay, so it looks like the best thing I could do is try and trap it in this little box down here. Okay, my time's up, but again, my score was happily going up. I wasn't hitting any of the pink parts. That wasn't the best representation of how to do that screen, but it worked anyway. So on we go to the next one. And again, you can see there's some pretty big red boxes there, so all the aim is to get it into one of those and not get it hitting the pink bit too much. So let's see how we get on here. Oh, now this does happen sometimes. You can sometimes draw the line straight through the ball and it gets stuck, which doesn't mean my score is going up, but it does mean that I can now try and draw an area to trap it in and guide it towards that area. Although I'm not really doing a very good job of that. Okay, so let's trap it in this half. Let's try and get the white one. This might go wrong. I don't know what happens if you finish the level with exactly the same score as you had before. Okay, we need to move the blue one now, otherwise the ball's never going to come free. Okay, so now the ball's come free. Oh, that's bad news. That's gone really wrong. Oh no, now it's getting stuck in the thing. Okay, I'm in big trouble now. I've made a right mess of that. Yeah, I've failed. Pretty much, because I've no way of getting out of that now. I made a complete hash of that. Maybe trapping the ball isn't such a good thing after all. So there you go, game over, because my current score is less than my previous screen score. It's gone down by 4 because of hitting the pink areas, and that's game over. So not the best example of how to play the game. It's got a high score table, as you can see. So what I'll do is I'll play through again, try and get a little bit further and show some of the other screens, and then talk about some of the other aspects of the game. Okay, so I just completed screen D. Still not a great go, but I managed to get it higher than the previous screen, so that was good. So here you can see screen E now, and things get a little bit more complicated again, because if it hits this green box in the middle, it will randomly materialise somewhere else on the screen, the ball. So the best thing to do really is try and box that off straight away. Although I've kind of done it the wrong way around now. But there we go. Box the green box off, and then you're taking that out of the equation, and then you can use the other two lines to try and fix it into the one of the red areas. So let's see if we can do that. It's going to go all the way around and back again, hopefully. So we just draw this line up to here and then across there. Now it's stuck in an area that can only be red, so that's great news. I'll just let the bonus timer time down. That's good enough. You could completely trap it in the red area if you really wanted to, but I think that's good enough for this level. It will increase substantially enough. So while that's happening, let's talk about graphics. Very basic, they're just squares and lines, but the lines are well drawn, they draw exactly to where you want them to, and things seem to bounce off them with the right angles as well, so that's good. Otherwise, there's not really anything great to say about the graphics. Puzzle games are not about the graphics, obviously, they're about the puzzle aspect, and that's definitely the case in this game. So again, we're in a similar sort of situation. Probably best to just box it off in the bottom here. Try and get it on that side. Oh, no, I've done that wrong. Timing is not always the best on these things. I should be able to just use the white one now to box it into the red area, hopefully, if we can get my timing right. There we go. Let's box it in completely this time. There we go. Sound again, very basic. It's literally just the sound of the ball bouncing off things. Nothing to write home about whatsoever. So just let the timer tick down and give me loads more points. It would be nice if you could speed the time up when you've got it trapped. That would be a nice additional option. So that's screen F completed. And on we go again. You can see things getting a little bit more tricky now. Although if you can trap the ball in the corner straight away, then pretty much you've got nothing to worry about. Oh, it's slipped under. There are little gaps under the bottom of the lines when they're first drawn. That's a bit of a shame because I could have trapped it in that corner almost immediately. Let's see if we can do something better here. You've sort of got to think ahead slightly because the line draws slower to the area you want it to than the ball moves. But there we go. So we've got it trapped in a red area. So the score can only go up again now. You get the idea by now. It's just a case of trying to trap it just in that red area now to get as many points as possible. That's good enough. So I'm now on screen K, and you can see there's this huge pink area in the middle. If I can section that off, then basically anything else, any points I get after that is pretty much just a bonus. The key is to not let it come into this pink area, but that's quite easy to do. Oh, although there's a little bit where it could get through there, so let's just seal that off as well. So again, I'm not going to get a massive amount of points, but I can't lose any points either. So I'm just going to hit the bonus there and let it cycle through. So it's a pretty addictive game. It's a good challenge. You do always feel when you mess up that it's your own fault and it's not the game's fault. There's definitely some brain power required to work out the best way to solve some of the levels. Some of them are quite easy, like this one. You're not going to get a massive score unless you decide to box it into that little red area, but as long as you section off the pink area, then there's nothing to worry about. The difficulty from screen to screen does vary quite a lot. Now this one, you can see you've got lots of red areas, only one pink area, but every time it hits the green area it could drop into the pink area, so it's dangerous to actually section the ball off into the pink area. Let's see what happens. What you really want is for it to drop into this red area earlier on and just section it off, and then you should be fine. But because you're never sure where it's going to go when it hits the green one, like that, you can see it's just going over and over into the pink area. So really you want to try and box it off into here. There we go, that's what I wanted to do. Try and get it boxed off into that area, and it should be okay to then use the white one, to section it off smaller. There we go, pretty safely just in the red now. Okay, so I'm now on screen Q, and this looks hard. There's a lot of green, there's only a little bit of red, there's also only a little bit of pink, but I'm just wondering how often I'm actually going to be able to get the ball to land in the red area, given how much time it could spend in the green, bouncing around, rematerializing all over the place. So let's see how we get on. Really what you want to do is draw a box around the red and hope it eventually materializes in the red box like it just did. But of course there's a possibility it won't materialize in the red box very often. So I guess the next approach is to try and get it to only land in the green area half the time and hope it, there we go. Oh, it must have landed in the, materialised in the green area and then moved again. So at the moment it's not going very well because it's never materialising in the red, and my score is less than it was to start with. I mean, it's not really very fair. It seems to keep materialising in the pink and never in the red area. It just seems rather unfair. My time's going to tick out and that's going to be game over. So there we go. That didn't go very well. But I did quite well. I got over 1,000 points. I got to screen Q. There's 26 screens, so I wasn't too far from the end there. The difficulty level does seem to range from being quite easy screens to then some that are quite difficult. Rather than the difficulty increasing, it just kind of seems to be a bit random. So there's not much more to show. What I am just going to show is one of the other game modes. Now, medium is exactly the same as easy, except you've only got 2 lines to draw with instead of 3, so it's not much more difficult. There's a couple of levels where it's a little bit more complicated, but generally speaking it's not too much different. So we're going to not show that. I'm just going to show hard level, which is where you've got 3 lines but 2 balls to trap, and I'm going to start on level F as well, screen F. Let's see how this goes. This could be bad or it could be good in terms of how well I get on, so let's see what happens. Okay, so I've got the 2 balls trapped in one half of the screen, which should make life relatively easy for me. I've only got to concentrate on one side. I just need to get, I suppose I could try and trap them both in one half, but as long as I get one in a red area, then I should start to see my points increasing. Yeah, that's going quite nice now. Look at the speed that's going up. So I could use the white one now to try and trap the other one in this other red area. There we go. So that's gone quite nicely. I'll stick the bonus on now. Look at my score go up. So you start with 300 points instead of 100 as well. But check out how quickly my score is going up there. I could be over 800 points before even finishing the first stage here, yeah. So yeah, if you want to get bigger scores, definitely play on the harder level, although I imagine some levels are going to be easier than others. So here I am on screen M, and I've managed to trap one of the balls in the red space, so the score is just going up like crazy now. The other one's kind of passing through the pink occasionally and stuff like that, but it really doesn't matter because that's the real key to getting big scores, is to actually trap the ball in the red space, and then you can't lose basically. I've actually managed to get one of the balls trapped in this red line quite nicely. I just want to get it stuck in there, and again that should give me a pretty good bonus score as we tick down to another screen completed. I'm actually getting pretty close to where I did with just having a single ball, so it turns out actually having 2 balls is not much harder than having one, it seems. It's surely just a matter of getting them both trapped in one of these red corners. Okay, that was a disaster. Let's try again. I guess the problem here is while they're traversing the pink area, the score's going down quite quickly as well. So, well, it's already going up. Oh, missed trapping it in the yellow box there. Sorry, the white box. My score is above what I want it to be. what I need it to be, but this is not going as well as I'd hoped. I can't keep track of the two balls. Okay, this one's... oh. Yeah, actually my score's gone way below now because I've sectioned off all the red areas and it's just getting stuck in the pink ones, so... no, that's game over. I thought that was going to be quite easy and I made a complete mess of it. Well, there you go. That's game over. Nice score though, 2,894. I think that's the best I've done in the game. You definitely get a lot more points by playing on the hard level. Let's take a look at the high score table. As you can see, it stores 5 scores. So you've seen enough of the game. Let's get on with some review scores, shall we? Starting with the packaging, and I think it's pretty nice packaging. I'm obviously looking at the computer and video games cut out from a magazine page rather than the original packaging, but I still think it's pretty decent. The image on the front cover is very representative of the game. The instructions are pretty decent as well, so I'm going to give it 6 out of 10 for the packaging. Presentation I think is excellent. You've got all these different game options, you've got a high score table, you've got the ability to start on different screens and the 3 different difficulty levels. So it would have benefited, I think, from some music on the title screen, but otherwise the presentation is excellent. So I'm going to go 8 out of 10 for the presentation. Graphics are pretty simple, as you'd expect from a puzzle game. Nothing spectacular about them, but the screen designs are quite nice. Good use of colours, and the drawing of the lines is very accurate. So I'm going to go 5 out of 10 for the graphics. Can't really give it much more than that because they are quite simple. Similarly with the sound, it's literally just a few bleeps and bouncing noises, so just 3 out of 10 for the sound. Where this game really stands out though is in the playability. Excellent addictive game, sort of simple to get into the idea of the concepts of the game, but quite hard to master. Lots of challenging different screens as well, so I'm going to go with 8 out of 10 for the playability, which gives it an overall score of 7 out of 10, which is probably a little bit lower than it deserves. That's brought down obviously by the sort of basic graphics and sound scores, but definitely an addictive and playable game. Well worth the $1.99 asking price, and even more worth the getting it free on the cover of Computer and Video Games. So if you've got any thoughts about Brainstorm, let me know in the comments. I think that was an excellent game and definitely one of the most playable games I've played so far from this series. So we'll round off this review like I always do by giving you the choice of 2 games for me to play in a future video, and the theme this time is Activision Classics. These are 2 Activision games that were originally released in the early 80s and then re-released by Firebird in the Silver Range packaging. So the 2 choices are Pitfall or River Raid. 2 classic games, I think you'll agree. Let me know in the comments which one of those games you want me to play and I will play it. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you again next time.